Hey, I'm Sean, and this is my new channel Vendetta, where I'll be working on an Oculus Quest game. For the next month, I'm going to be participating in a game jam that I set up. Um, my studio name is Vendetta. The event that I might run around that is called Vendetta, and so I've titled the game jam Vendetta Oculus Quest Game Jam for November. So here's the Oculus Quest. So basically, whoever joins it has 1 month to make an Oculus Quest game. There's no particular theme, yeah, there's like not really any strict rules or anything. So the main thing being, the main rule of a game jam is that you start from scratch, and you don't use any code that's not publicly available, or like you don't use your old code. So the reason I started it is because, well, for the last couple of weeks I've been thinking about what kind of studio do I start, what kind of game do I begin with, and so I set the start date as November and the whole month of November to focus on this project. And then yesterday was Halloween, and I just figured, well, if I'm doing it, I may as well make a game jam and see if anyone wants to join. So good news is we've got about 4 people doing it, and that's pretty cool. And so this is day 1 of the game jam, and I haven't started yet. So I'm starting from the very base level, and for me that means to make sure that I'm in a nice environment and I feel comfortable. Because this is, in a way, it is a bit of a fresh start, and I like that. So I've got my studio looking exactly how I like it. It's nice and clean, books are all tidy. Picked up a new shirt because, yeah, I'm a consumer, so why not? And also some notebooks. I found these with the big grids. So I don't know how useful they'll be, but I just figured grids are cool. I like grids. So this, my plan for this video series is to make one every day for November. Overall, the video will be about 10 minutes long, and I'll have the camera set up here. And then at certain points throughout my session, I will drop back and say what I've just been thinking about and what I've just been working on. So that overall you just get a 10-minute snapshot of my day doing the game jam. Now, today I only have 3 hours here to work on it, so what I'm going to do is think about what are my goals, what's the scope of the project, how am I going to schedule my own time, what's the workflow I'm going to use, and the tools that I'm going to use to help me stay organized. I only have 3 hours, and so I think that's just the right amount of work for the 3 hours that I have. Feeling pretty positive about it all. And so yeah, I guess you are about to see what I'm going to make over the next few videos, 30 videos. So something I'd just like to say is that this book, if you have any sort of, if you work in a creative field, I've just really started to dig into this book. Around like the couple of chapters in, it starts getting really interesting about the way that they manage creative teams, and giving feedback and focusing on what's most important, and all the things that the president of Pixar Animation learned throughout making Toy Story and A Bug's Life and so on. It's so cool, and it's like a step back in time, because it starts off in the 70s and the 80s, and it talks about George Lucas and Star Wars and Steve Jobs, and it just seems like a really interesting time in that place with those people making really new and interesting things that had never been done before. I feel similar about virtual reality, so if I hope to one day lead a creative team, I'm getting a lot of really useful information from this book. I really recommend it. Alright, off to work. Okay, so I've just spent a few hours to write down a few goals and other things about how I'm going to work and the type of thing that I would like to make. So my goals are, my main goal is by the 30th of November, I will distribute an Oculus Quest app having the following traits. It will be fun to play for at least 10 minutes and repeatable. I will actually measure fun by survey. No crashing bugs or blocking bugs. Using a flexible play space boundary up to 5 by 5 meters. It requires the player to walk and move a lot. I'll be testing at least a couple of concepts that I have for my main game. That is, you'll be playing versus an AI player. The whole arena that you play in will be the size of a basketball court. You protect your tower. You have a bat that grows while collecting power-ups. There are multiple balls, and you move forward and back a zone at a time. It may use a kind of Pong mechanic, just very simple. Just push that ball back and forth. It will be single player. There must be scoring, so you can compare scores with others. It must have a start and an end condition. It must be so that if people watch it or spectate it through the player's vision, there won't be an external camera. But if people watch the gameplay from the player perspective, it should be easy to understand and enjoyable to watch. And it should be easy to learn, so similar to Beat Saber. And it should also have sounds and other forms of feedback within the game. Within that, you can see that I haven't really said things around like a menu system, a tutorial. There's not really going to be any of that. There's no extra levels. There's not really any content. There's no need for voices. There's no characters in it. This is simply about mechanics. Okay, so those are the sort of the scope or a couple of the features that I may want to include. And then I looked at what my routine will be. What are my available hours? Well, I have to work 2 full days a week at my job, and then the other 5 days of the week I'll be treating this as a 9-to-5 job. So I'll be working on my game jam 5 days a week. And then I also have a side project that is related to a VR event that's separate, but I'll add that on after I finish working on my game. And then I'll also have probably up to 1 hour after each session where I just have to like publish this video, or just clean up stuff, or like commit to GitHub or whatever. Then I have a vague sort of a list of things that are related to my workflow. I'll write my feature list backlog. I'll prioritize the things that I must have. I'll keep in mind that I do need to design things before I build them, but also I can't spend too long on one or the other. So I think the ratio would be roughly 1-to-5. And then try to make no task take longer than 1 day. Because I'm worried about mammoth tasks that I don't know how to do. So my milestones for this project will be on Thursday, November the 14th. There's a local VR meetup, so I have promised, and I really would love to show what I'm working on. And then on November 28th is my mum's birthday, but because that's near the end of the month, I would like to have the game pretty much final at that point, because there's only a few more days after that. My resources is just me full-time, all the equipment that I need. I'm prepared to spend up to $50 on new assets. I have a couple of previous assets from Unity, like IK and some avatars, and then I'll be looking at free sounds as well. So here's something interesting, is that once I started writing down the days, and I'm doing this really old school because I feel good about writing, and stuff on the computer, digital stuff, I just can't get it flowing, right? And it's too easy to delete. But here, I do like sketching things. So you can't really see it, but what I've done is I wrote down my project plan, and I wrote down all the days, and I had to take out the days that I'm working. And then you can see the blocks where I'm available to do things. And I've also got that milestone there, which is like a deadline, the 14th, and another one on the 28th. So you can see now that even though it's a full month, I've only got 21 days of work. And if you cut out the days for near the end for around like art, sound, balancing, polish sort of things, then that actually means that I've only got 14 days to work on the features, right? If you then also take into account that I have that milestone in the middle where I expect a rough prototype to be ready, that actually means I have 7 days to get more or less feature complete. And that's going to be really difficult. So that's instantly putting me, making me much more aware of that I've got to limit my scope. And a few of the things that I just mentioned, I might have to cut a few. It might have to cut the arena scale, for example. Focus on the game that requires you to move a lot, but not around a basketball court. So yeah, that's how I'm breaking up my time. My core pillars, always, with everything I do in VR, and the reason I'm here, is magical, physical, social. That's what I've got to do. And so thinking further about things about my workflow and how I'll do it, I'll be using paper to design most things. And once I've got that broken down into tasks, that will be going into a form of Kanban to-do list, where things move along until they're done. And I'll be using a web service called Airtable for that, because it's nice and easy to use and free. Airtable is really cool. It's like a database where you can set up different views and different data types. I like it. It's addictive setting it up. That's why I'm keeping it simple. So every set of consecutive days, I'm treating it like a sprint. So I know some of agile methodologies, and so when I have a block of 2, 3, or 4 days, I'm treating that as a sprint, where at the start of the sprint I'll sort of decide what can I fit into those days, and how long do I think they will take, and they'll usually be related by theme or like problem area. For time management on an hourly basis, I'll be using something similar to Pomodoro, so that I'm always conscious of time passing. In my office here, when I don't have like a lot of outside light, no noises, it's really easy to forget time is passing. And so that's why I'm going to try some better time management for myself. And also related to that is scheduling tea breaks and making sure that I keep to my work hours that I said I will. So start at 9, finish at 5. Should be easy. I live here. And test frequently. So check at the end of the day, and don't let any major bugs stay beyond a sprint. So always allow time to fix and to test at the end. So that's then even still cutting out of my 7 days of feature building. The tools I'm going to use are Airtable for the to-do list, this notepad, Bitbucket with Git, and Unity, and Photoshop, and Visual Studio. So that's what I've done today. It's just like a bit of a project outline. And within this outline, I've started to allocate days at the very beginning. I have tomorrow off, and that's my design day. So it's like by the next video, you should know pretty well what I'm going to do. Now, and I'm going to be really careful with that scope, because blocking it out like that and allowing time for the things at the start and the end, I don't have much time to really do a lot. I mean, unless I can do, I've thought about maybe having the midpoint, that November 14, show something cool, but still there's one other cool thing that I want to add. I mean, that assumes that I can complete the cool thing, because I won't have time to come back to it. Whereas most likely that second half of the month would be more like, well, I've finished all the features that I want in the first half, and then I've just got to add little bits and pieces or connect a few bits around in the second half. So that's more likely what's going to happen. So thanks for watching. You're going to see me build a game over 1 month. It's going to be very physical, very magical, and not quite social, but I will always think about the spectator. See you next time.